Welcome to another episode of F That Job, the place to air out your workplace grievances. It's the show about shitty jobs, the people who work them, and the people who escape them. I'm your host, Rashawn P.
I'm Chad.
And welcome to another episode. But I want to start out this episode by saying like, comment, subscribe, share.
Off top, 100%.
Yeah. You know, we always do it like later on at the end, but you know, we gotta make sure we put that in the beginning. So that's how we're gonna do the intro from now on.
All right.
So
it's our first episode of the 2023, first episode of the new year that we shooting.
Yeah. How you feel?
You know, we just had a little conversation off camera. I'm feeling more motivated than I have felt in a long ass time.
That just did it for me right there. The conversation that we just had off camera, just meeting up, first time seeing each other this year.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you know, we back at it, you know, and I just feel motivated. And I think this is a year where we're gonna actually do some things. So as Kyron was saying earlier about a video he saw before, yo, look at this video right here.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the year, we'll see what's up after this.
I mean, this is the first time I put this on my Instagram, on my personal Instagram story. This is the first time since 2016 where I've actually physically written down a goal. Last time I physically wrote down goals, maybe I wrote down 6 goals. I knocked out like 3 or 4 of them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, I'm feeling it this year. I'm feeling it. And I'm excited about the show. I'm excited about my personal shit that I got going on. I'm ready to go.
I'm ready, man. I just feel like this year is going to be very prosperous for us, for everybody around us. I feel like, you know, my guy, Ashford Films, I feel like this is going to be a year where it's going to be big. I'm going to put out some more music this year. And we just going to, man, we're going to get to it, man.
Yeah.
But while we getting to it, you know, we still got to work, right? So like, that's the theme of it, right? You got to do work, right?
100%.
So don't get lazy and don't let the job F you.
F that job.
But if it does,
F that job.
F that job. So you ready?
So we got a caller today talking about, you know, jobs and F them.
Pretty much, yeah.
The job and coworkers and all kind of stuff saying F them. So
let's get into it.
Let's get into it. All right, so we're here with our guest for today, Chris. He's got a story to tell us about working in like a managerial type of position. Is that right?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. All right, so just go ahead and start with your story. Give us your story.
So the job that I had, I was working at an optical office. I was just an entry level kind of desk worker, like front end associate. And at the time that job was like kind of just, it was like my everything. It was important to me because I was trying to basically get my life on the straight and narrow and get within a regular, 40-hour-a-week job. As I got in that job, I wasn't really making much money. It was tough. But ultimately my goal was to get promoted within the company. Everybody at the place where I worked at, they told me, they're like, hey, if you do work, bust ass, you can get promoted and you can get to a managerial position. You could become an optician, it's not an optometrist, which is the people that work actually on your eyes or on your eyes. Opticians are the people that fit you for your glasses, take measurements of your eyes, your pupillary distances, and they make pretty good money. So I worked hard at that job. I mean, as a front end associate, I was like basically taking appointments, answering phone calls, and man, I busted my ass in there. I cleaned toilets, I cleaned the whole office, I put files away. I mean, I did everything above and beyond basically above everybody else. And in due time, I did slowly get those promotions. I got the promotion to assistant manager, all the way up to manager, and it was pretty cool. I started making good money. I mean, at the time, I only had an associate's degree, so I didn't really have, a really deep, uh, schooling, or like a bachelor's degree in anything. So to me, I'm like, this was great. I'm making great money. I'm busting ass, and it was going pretty well. And as time went on, I like realized. I mean, I was like splitting time between working at the office and going to the gym, and working at the office, going to the gym. And I almost had to have, in a sense, like a different like facade when I was at that office. I had to answer the phone a certain way. I had to talk different. I had to dress different.
Yeah, you had to put on
And
that work mask kind of thing.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, people would call me and, or call the office trying to reach me. And, I'd answer the phone and say, hi, this is Chris. Thank you for calling, da 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 da. And my friends would be like, who is that? And I'd have to, and I would be like, yeah, yeah, it's me, yada yada. Like, what do you want? And it was a cool job for me. I enjoyed it for a real long time. And as the years went by, I kind of just felt like I was like losing myself a bit. I was kind of starting to gain more weight than I wanted. I wasn't able to train as much, and just surrounding myself around people like I really didn't truly enjoy. And one day I get a call from my territory manager, and he says, hey, are you going to be in today? And I said, yeah. And I was like, man, it just seemed like a weird call. And throughout my tenure at that office, that guy was kind of like a mentor to me. So he would teach me how to deal with, like associate issues or customer issues. And he was real cool to me, but I could tell the tone was different. So he shows up, he's wearing a red tie. And what he told me,
Wait, hold on. Sorry, I don't know if you heard our episode with that we had with the HR lady, and her talking about like at the job where she's a HR,
The guy
does
with the
HR.
jacket.
Like it's a dude that come in anytime you get ready to fire somebody, he put that red jacket on and he walk around the office and everybody know what the fuck is going on.
that's what it was. He walked in with I must have missed that one. Damn. But so he walks in with the red tie, and I'm just like, shit. He pulls me in his office, and he's like, Chris, I'm going to ask you a few questions. I need you to be honest with me. And I was like, all right. And I'm thinking in my head, like, I had already been dealing with some prior, this is what this was about. I had been dealing with some prior charges, and this is why I was trying to get my life kind of on the straight and narrow. And he's like, are you able to answer these questions? I was like, I don't really want to answer any questions unless I talk with my attorney. As I just knew what was up. I knew something was wrong.
Yeah.
So he's like, okay, I'll be back. He's like, tell your attorney if you can set up a meeting with me, him, and your attorney. I'll come back down. And I was like, shit, this is not good. So he leaves, call my attorney, and he's like, yeah, I can meet whenever. We set up the meeting for the next day. He comes down, the territory manager comes in again with a red tie, another bold red tie, and I'm
Is this
sweating.
the same tie?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, the same tie. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Real,
So
yeah. Stern look. I mean, like red cufflinks. Like he dressed to the T's. So he asked me, and he's like, "Have you ever had any charges before? Have you ever been arrested?" And I was like, I started stuttering really bad. He's like, have you ever been in trouble? And just kind of kept prying at it. I was like, well, like I've had some things, but like nothing major. And ultimately, it led down to he was like, we found out you had been arrested before. And my charges, they were drug charges, like prior to me getting that job. And the crazy thing about when I had gotten that job is I was on pretrial. So pretrial release means that you're not convicted yet. You're still going through the trial process. So
they were allegedly.
allegedly, yeah, at that point it was,
Allegedly.
I mean, like I was still working, trying to figure out these charges. And I mean, to the capacity that while I was doing that interview, I had an ankle bracelet on my ankle. Like,
So you went to the interview for the job with the ankle bracelet on.
with an ankle brace, I had to ask my PO, could I go, like to the gym? Could I go here for interviews? Like, it was a pretty big deal. And so, I have the ankle bracelet on, and he's just asking me about the charges. And I kind of like stuttered through it. I was like, no, no, you don't. He's like, well, we know that you've been arrested and we've looked it up and we know what your charges are. And he's like, and ultimately, that's not what our company stands for. We're not going to be able to keep you here anymore because you were dishonest when you applied here. And I was like, well, no, when I applied, I wasn't actually convicted. I'd only been arrested, but I wasn't, in trouble, right?
Right.
And so ultimately they let me go. And it was like, man, it was so heartbreaking because for me at the time, I was 20. I had just had a kid. I was 24, 25 years old, and I had all my eggs in one basket. And when you get a job like that, in management, and you're really not technically experienced or have the college degree for things like that, it's tough, like to find another job like that.
Yeah.
You'd have to start from square one again. So I ended up getting fired from that job. They let me go, and it was just like crushing to me. So I was like, well, I got to figure something out. I ended up trying to apply to finish up because I had my associates, but I was like, I want to go finish my bachelor's. I applied at the local community college, which would help you get into the next like 4-year local school. So I apply there, and they ask you all the questions when you apply for FAFSA and whatnot. Have you been arrested? Do you have a felony? Do you have this? So when I applied for even like federal student aid, they said no, you're not qualified because
Yeah, because of the
you
drug
got
charge.
charges. Exactly. So then I applied to the school. I'm like, well, fuck it. I have some money saved. I'm going to just pay for it out of pocket. And so I applied to the school, and they're like, nope, we can't take people like you at this university. Yeah, right. It's funny now, but I was like, oh my God. They're like, so we can't take you at this university. You have, and I was like a young, and Chad, I know Chad from the gym, like we're martial artists. So even when I've been doing martial arts my whole life, and I'd gotten in a fight, and when I was maybe 20 and beat the kid up, he got hurt bad. I ended up with a misdemeanor assault charge. So the university or the community college are like, we can't. You have a drug charge. Like you beat people up. We can't. We can't have you.
Well, before you go further in the story, is there anything else that
No, no. That I mean, that's enough though, right? Like if you
Yeah.
really look at it, like on paper, they were like, listen, like you're kind of a wild dude. Like the kid got hurt when I just, the kid got hurt when we fought. I didn't. I got arrested. And I was really basically like a young wild dude, like doing what I want and living by my own code. So the university, bang, they declined me, and I'm just like, fuck. I'm like, I can't go to school. I can't get a job. Like, and especially if you have a felony, you can't get. It's hard to get a job. Like you
Yeah.
apply places.
100%. Yeah.
it is?
For the most part, they just say no, like, or you got to work construction. So ultimately, I mean, I was like jammed up, and I was like, I just got to figure out, I got to start working for myself. And as the years went by, I mean, I just started doing different businesses from refereeing basketball. I even started an errand business for older folks where I would just pick them up and drive them places. And I just kept basically starting these like small businesses, and they'd go okay, and sometimes I'd fail, sometimes not, and my point of my story is that I hit a lot of roadblocks and a lot of like doors shut in my face, and people just telling me, no, you can't do this, you can't work here, you can't go to school here. And as time went by, I ended up starting a mycology business, which this might have been like my fourth or fifth gig of a business that I've tried, and it clicked. I mean, I had a friend. She wanted to grow some. Mycology is the study of fungi growth, which is basically like growing mushrooms.
Mhm.
So I had a friend. She wanted to grow some mushrooms, and she hit me up. And this is why I had this. I would ref basketballs for AAU, junior varsity, and varsity. But when you're doing that, you're an independent contractor, so you work for yourself. So I still had pretty good gig going, and I had kids, not kids, but younger adults that I would employ, and they would ref other like AAU basketball or modified basketball. So I was doing okay with it. And as the time went by, I started that mycology. Well, I'm sorry, I'll track back a little bit. My friend wanted to grow her mushrooms. I helped her grow them. I made way too much supplies, and I had like hundreds of what they're called as grain bags, and I just had like a couple hundred of them, and basically made way too much supplies. And I was like, I don't really know what to do with them. So I went online, I posted them on Reddit, Facebook, and they sold. I mean, like quick, fast, like very fast. And I made maybe like a couple $1,000s the first month. And this was off of like basically an accident. And so I was like, well, hey, like maybe I'm onto something here. And as time went by, I kept doing it, and it kept snowballing and snowballing and snowballing, and it got to the point where I stopped doing the reffing, the basketball refereeing job. I even had a small gym that I was like teaching jujitsu and kickboxing, boxing at, and I ended up closing that down because it really took over all of my time as far as what I wanted to be doing working. And it was just kind of, I mean, all these doors they shut for me. I was really disappointed because I'm like, man, like I said, I couldn't get into school, couldn't really get another, because if you can't go and get a bachelor's or another nicer degree, like, how are you going to get into these jobs?
Yeah.
Right.
And like you said, like with the eye place, like you would put all of your time and energy into that, and the busting your ass to work hard to like try to work your way up the ladder, and finally you get to a manager position, and they wait until you get there to like come pull a shit on you, like, oh no, like
Right. And
It was
now going through all of that, like your future going forward, like period, is just defined by mistakes you made when you were a young man.
yeah.
And that's
yeah.
So this is my question: did you ever figure out like, because usually like during the hiring process is when they do a background check. Did like somebody like come into the store and be like, wait, I recognize him, like, and then like say something to somebody that worked there, like what was the
That's
process?
exactly what happened. There was a
Seriously?
girl.
a work snitch got you?
Somebody snitched on this. I was just like
Yeah.
throwing like, oh shit. So wait, so you gotta give a little bit more explanation on that. Hold on, go ahead.
So, so like, mind you, I would say that I had to have two different faces when I was working. I had a work face, and then I had like my outside life face. And as a man, if you're a manager, like you have to set an example. You have to lead by example. So, what I mean? I would do things basically by the book. I'd work hard. I'd bust ass. And some people would either like that, and the lazy people would not like that. And ultimately, it was a girl that knew some mutual friends of mine. And like one day, she comes up to me in the office, and she was like, "Oh, like we'll call him Joe." She was like, "Don't you know Joe?" And Joe was one of my co-defendants on my case. And yeah, and I was like, Joe. I'm like, Joe who? And she's like, Joe blah blah. I'm like, yeah, like not really. And she like looked at me and like kind of smirked.
Oh
And
shit.
I had just had to write her up because she was like showing up late, taking 100 sig breaks throughout the day. And when she said that to me, I was like, I'm like, this is it. And I mean, it was
I see what
3 or 4 days.
God.
What's that? Go ahead.
I see what this is. I see where this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So within 3 or 4 days, I got the call. And I mean, I already knew exactly what it was, and that girl, it was perfect timing for her. Like she took her vacation, like
So
when
she wasn't even in the office when the shit popped off. She fucking snitched and then took some vacation days till shit blew over.
exactly.
Oh, that's
And
fucked up.
yeah, it was wild, man. It was super disappointing. And at the time I was like crushed, and like I said, I was making okay money, so it wasn't like I was completely assed out and wasn't going to be able to like live, but without a real job or real formal education or like a capability to just go and apply to another job. Because if I had that job and I applied to other places, they're going to say, well, hey, where'd you work? I would say this place, and they're going to call for a reference. And how am I going to get a reference if I just got fired
Yeah.
Right.
for that? So I basically lost what I had going. And man, it was crushing. It was pretty sad because I got pretty far in that company. I even got different like promotions, and as far as raises, really. Because even throughout it, I got hip to just, I was like, well, let me see what other places would hire me for. So while I was at that job, I would apply to other optical offices, and sometimes these places would offer me more money. And I had put in my 2-week notice 2 times at that company, And consequently, my boss said, no, we'll match whatever they're going to pay you.
Shit.
So, yeah, I mean, I was doing great. And that's kind of like a good tip to just always like check your value and make sure that there's other people that are going to pay you more for
For
what you're
sure.
worth. And
100%.
yeah, because I did hear the one podcast where the one girl, she must have did it like something 27 times or something like
Yeah,
that.
Yeah, yeah.
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 So when she said that, like that really rang true with me because I would do that every maybe year or so. I would apply somewhere, see what I was worth, see if they pay me more, and sometimes it was less, and that's fine. But a couple of times I got raises. It was cool.
So,
But luckily those. Go ahead.
so how long in total were you there?
I was there like about 5.5 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was like my job. Like after coming home, I like had to find a job like ASAP. So I just applied everywhere, and that was the place that basically called me back and seemed like the best gig. And man, it was like good doors closed on me and people saying no, and ultimately now I work from home. I don't really have to answer to anybody. I don't have to worry about my background or anything of that. And it's just a much better situation for me. So for me personally, I've always found it better if you get the opportunity to, or even just I even tell my girlfriend this all the time. I'm like, put 5% or maybe even 10% into starting some sort of business that you own, that you created, that
Mhm.
nobody can hire or nobody could fire you. You know what I mean? Nobody can take that away from you. And that's really what I did just for years and years and years. And I would fail and I would make it and I would fail and I would make it, doors shut in my face, fire. It was rough, but now, I don't have to worry about that process of anyone ever bringing up my past and
Yeah.
saying, "Hey, you can't work here and you can't do this."
You finally found freedom, like by starting your own thing.
Yeah, yeah, and I was fortunate enough because really at the time when I was at that optical office, like I was training, but it's hard when like I mean I was working as a manager, I was working like 50-hour weeks. So I'm like, I have a kid plus training. It's like when you have a newborn kid and all that, it's very difficult to make it to the gym, at like 6, 7 o'clock at night and do, martial arts because you're being pulled in so many different directions. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I was gaining weight, I probably put on at that job, I put on like 60 to 70 pounds
Man.
on top of my normal weight. So it allowed me to, once I left that place, I was like, you know what, I'm not going to do anything that I don't want to do anymore. So I just did basically, like, I enjoyed basketball. So I was like, I'm going to figure out how to coach that. And I like martial arts. I'm going to figure out how to open up a gym. And even if I make, chump change, I'm just going to keep doing it until something clicks.
Yeah.
And slowly but surely, something did click.
Well, I think that, what happened is, you ended out, on top. Like you ended up on top and you said you working from home now, like you're working for yourself now. And on top of that, you don't have to worry about the work snitch.
Man,
So
that girl,
so Chris, I think I know what we're gonna call this episode. I was trying to figure out what we was gonna call it. But I think
snitches get stitches.
uh I think that's crazy. I think that's like, for people to be like, that like spiteful,
Yeah.
to go out of your way to just affect somebody's livelihood like that.
Especially when like you were saying, Chris, like she was showing up late, she was taking too many smoke breaks, she was doing all the wrong shit. Like you had to bust your ass and did everything you needed to do to get to the position that you were at, to be chopped at the knees by somebody who wasn't doing what the fuck they was supposed to be doing, and might have probably got fired from the same place anyway.
Right.
Like,
Do you know what she's doing now?
She eventually got fired from there.
of course.
So what she's doing now, I don't really know, but I mean, probably not too much.
She probably still not minding her business.
Yeah, basically, yeah. And I ended up figuring out who she was, and that was like basically her MO. And people talked about her, and I found out more about her. They're like, like she basically sucks.
Yeah. So if you want to go ahead and you want to plug your mycology business, so you can go ahead and do that right now. Thank a great story, great interview all around. If you want to plug your business, you can go ahead and do that now.
Yeah, it's A plus grain. I'm on almost every platform. Basically, if you're ever interested in growing any type of mushroom whatsoever, I sell all the supplies for it. I don't sell any cultures or anything. But I'm local, and microdosing, depending on what kind of mushroom you're using, it's a huge thing now, and a
Yeah,
lot of
it's
people are
real big
benefiting
now.
from it. There's tons of guys at our gym that they love the benefits of different types of mushrooms. So
Yep.
if anybody's ever trying to, give it a go and try to grow out, just hit me up, check me out on Instagram or any of those platforms, and I'll set you right up.
All right, cool. So just in case you guys missed that, that's A plus grain on all social media. Make sure you check out Chris, and thanks for calling in.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it, and thanks for having me on, and nice chatting with all you guys.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
All right, see you.
All right.
All right. We
Work
back.
snitches. Work snitches.
The work snitches, man. That's what this video is going to be called. The work snitch or something around that. People, please.
Mind your business.
Or F the job.
Yeah.
like,
if it's that much of an issue, just quit. Like they keep your boss is on your ass like that, like writing you up because didn't sound like it was anything malicious that he was writing her up. Like it was legitimate shit. But she still had to snitch. But yeah, man.
But it worked out for him. And
Yeah.
that just shows you that, you're always going to prosper, in the end, if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. And I also think that, a theme of his whole story, to me, that I took away from that was that not letting his past define him,
Oh,
right?
yeah, 100%.
So he had something that was going on in his life, and I feel like people do deserve second and third chances.
Mhm.
I feel like you shouldn't be defined off of something, a mistake that you made early in your life for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel like we should be beyond like forgiveness, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, and that's like a big part of the conversation surrounding work culture for people who've encountered the judicial system in their lives.
Right.
He was like, I don't know how many of y'all out there have tried to apply for FAFSA, but that's like one of the first questions on the form is like, do you have a drug charge?
Right.
Like,
And why should that
if you do, like, it's over for you. Basically, you're not about to,
why should that affect what you can learn still? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like that's kind of crazy to me. So um that's something that's got to change,
Yeah.
in the workforce, in the education system.
Mhm.
I feel like, if people are truly trying to reform, if that's what it's for, which we know it's not,
Yeah.
but if that's what it's for, then people need to be allowed to, change their life and be reformed.
Like how many people convicted of drug crimes are trying to get into school to sell more drugs? That's like like, you know what I'm saying? Like, is that what they're trying to stop by putting that question on the form? But needless to say, I'm happy for him that he found his a path to be successful and to help feed his family, and more power to him. You know what I'm saying?
And he also was at your gym, right?
Yeah, he trains at much.
So again, because I said this a few episodes ago, right? Don't do it, man. So you gotta leave people alone. You see, he caught the charge early because somebody tried him. Like, yo, I'm trying to tell you, these dudes is getting different out here with this mixed martial arts, man.
All right, yeah, but no, another good episode in the can. Thank y'all for watching. Hopefully y'all done wrote down y'all goals for this new 2023 year. I just stumbled over that. That sounded weird.
2023.
2023. Hopefully y'all wrote down some goals. Y'all ready to, get to it this year, man. But yeah, that's it.
Like, comment, subscribe, share, DM us, on all socials, and tell us some stories. We can get you on the show. We want to hear those stories. We want to interact. We want to talk to you.
Mhm.
We want to get this out here. Because this is kind of like therapy a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like, yo, get it off your chest,
Yeah.
before the job F's you
After that job.
and F with us.